me.
Yeah.
I got to like, oh my God.
Yeah, you and me both. Oh, I got the way. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in today. If y'all are out there watching, say something in the comments. We're getting ready to go live in a few seconds.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, how are you? It is Wednesday and you are listening to Selling Sacramento on 97.5 FM KDEE. I want to take a minute to express my deepest condolences to the wife of our station manager. For those of you who may or may not know, the awesome, magnificent, marvelous Marvell Reed passed away this morning. And although we are happy about him no longer being in pain and the challenges that he had with his health, which a lot of people don't know because he was just always always upbeat. He was always at his post.
Yes.
You would never have known that he was going through what he was going through. And God, he will be deeply missed. And so it's a shock to the KDEE family this morning because we were all just literally in a group text message preparing for our Christmas party, which Marvell was spearheading like he always does. And saw the last text comment from him or a like that he gave on someone's yay early this morning. And then shortly after that, his wife informed our president of the California Black Chamber that he had passed at home. And so we want to, I want to dedicate this show to him. He has always been a cheerleader, insisting that this show happen and always comforting me and always encouraging me and letting me know that all of the mistakes that I was making were okay and that they were only going to make me stronger and better. And so the California Black Chamber of Commerce family, the 97.5 FM KDEE family, we're praying for his wife, April. And we are asking you all to pray as well. And we will, until we see you again, Marvell, until we see you again, our show today is about mental health and self-care. And what does that have to do with real estate, Keisha? If you've listened to this show for any length of time, by now you know that this show is not just about helping people buy and sell homes. It is about uplifting and recovering a community of people. It's about providing resources and access to tools and the things needed so that we can make it happen for ourselves. And so I'm happy to have with me as my guest on today's show, my dear friend, Miss Donicia Carlos, mental health advocate. Pull that mic on up to your mouth, girl. Pull that on up so we can hear you. Say hello. She's actually in the studio. She is our first in-studio guest since we were told we could not have in-studio guests, and we were told we could have them again, I guess, in what do you call it, informally. But I just never had it. I just got complacent with having everyone online. And then Donicia said, "No, girl, I'm coming in. I'm
in the studio."
Yes. And I was like, "You are?" To myself, I was like, "Wait, you can come on in. So say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Donicia Carlos, and I am here on behalf of the Black Mental Effect. And we're going to be discussing mental health and how that plays a role in purchasing homes and restoring a community that definitely is in need of and looking for restoration.
Right. And I entitled today's show that wealth care begins with self-care. And we were having a conversation. This show came about as a result of a conversation we were having just on the fly. And Denisha started pouring into me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. Yes, you know what? You need to come on the show and talk about that. And one of the things that we discussed was the impact that social media is having on people because we're finding out information so much sooner. We're exposed to so much more. People are living fake lives, can we say it?
Yes.
Fake
and
lives.
others are living vicariously through those fake lives.
The expectations that people are setting, the influencers.
Yes.
You know, some of it we can pull if we are healthy in our minds.
Mhm.
We can look at something on social media, assess it properly, and walk away still feeling good about ourselves.
Right. Using our discernment to know
Right.
what's real and what's not.
But what's happening when someone who is not so healthy mentally is looking at these things?
So, what happens is we begin to get on that hamster wheel in the rat race, feeling that we need to keep up with, emulate exactly what that superstar or that, I say, quote unquote, influencer has and is doing.
Right.
And as a result of that, it begins to wear and tear on who we are authentically, and definitely who we are and where we are in our mental wellness.
Right. And so when you say it begins to wear on us, if there's someone who's not mentally healthy, because so what we're seeing, I guess inherently everybody wants to belong.
Yes.
Could we say that?
Yes.
And if you're looking at an influencer, or let's even say before social media, superstars, right?
Absolutely.
They are in a covetous position, which is, it looks very glamorous. If you are living a life where money is funny and change is strange, you know, your home life is not right. Everybody knows what it feels like to be sad.
Absolutely.
And depressed.
Absolutely.
And then you know what it feels like to have joy or be happy, or you see what it feels like.
Correct.
And then you want that.
Right. But we have to be very careful about how we look at joy and where that is really coming from.
Okay.
Because to have nice things and to have a so-called great life is wonderful if that's for you, but it's not going to replace whatever that emptiness is, that hole that needs to be filled. That has to be done by you. And if you aren't equipped or have the tools to do it, then that's where you seek out help from a therapist or a psychiatrist. It also could incorporate or mean incorporating self-care tools such as meditation and exercise. And we'll talk more about those things as we get later into the show. But folks have to understand where their joy is really coming from. And when we talk about a group of people, a lot of times, and more specifically, our people, we have to make sure that we are not chasing a capitalistic, Eurocentric lifestyle. We have, in a lot of ways, yes, because we've gotten away from,
and we've been conditioned.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that, because I believe, and we're starting to hear it more, the PTSD
Yes.
syndrome.
Yes.
For blacks, it's embedded within us genetically.
Correct.
Because of the trauma that we've experienced. We're just now starting to talk about this
Yes.
in a transparent way.
Yes.
There have been a lot of people before us who've tried to talk about it over the decades and have not been able to get a platform about
Correct.
it. But they were well aware a long time ago.
Yes.
And with the impacts of slavery, just something as simple. And I was thinking about this, and my God, if I could do it all over again, whipping our children.
Absolutely.
Can we just talk about that elephant in the room?
Has had a devastating effect on our children. I, being completely transparent, was one of those parents who that got passed down.
And where did that come from? And where did that come from? Right.
And we look at slavery. And then we also have to be transparent about how we are following scripture, because scripture talks about sparing the rod means you're spoiling the child.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm not saying that discipline is out of order. There's a difference between disciplining your child and whipping. Y'all know, going to go pick your own switch off the tree.
I know
kind
that
of
well.
Whipping. Yes. Grabbing extension. If we talked about the kind of spankings we got, our parents would be in prison.
Correct.
With these kids today.
Correct.
So that kind of stuff is, and it's, I'm laughing about it, but it's really not a laughable topic when you start breaking open the impact and the implications.
When you peel back those layers of that onion. I'm in the process now of going through healing with my own children. A lot of that is tied to whoopings that they got. And what that has done to them. And while I can't make up for that, I can definitely go through the process of healing, looking at where I was at that point in my life, but also looking at what that has done to my children, how that has affected them. And shout out to my children for changing the narrative with their own families, because they are now parents and moving away from that way of thinking and that way of life.
And it's hard to not be bitter when you look back on something that happened to you, and then you start wanting to place blame about your own circumstances, and you say, well, I'm like this because my mama did this. And I know for me personally, I had to come to a moment where I wasn't going to blame my mom for what I thought was going on in my life. It was just like an aha moment. And so I my prayer for people is that when you discover something that happened, that was a what do we call it, generational issue type stuff, and you know that it is something that's preventing you from being mentally healthy, try to not place blame. And I'm saying this and asking for you to assist me with saying this, because pointing back and blaming someone is not healthy either. It's not helping you be healthy.
And it's not helping you move forward. It's not helping you heal, and it's not helping you recover.
I like how you said, I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt you before you get off of it, because I like how you said that your children are now changing the narrative.
They absolutely
So they're not pointing back and placing blame. They're saying, instead of doing it this way, we're going to do it this
to change
way.
That. And we also have to look at placing blame versus stating facts. So we can state a fact and say that this occurred in my life, this happened, because we're not being dishonest about it. Because these things really did happen. But we get stuck in that place when we elect to, and I say elect purposely, when we elect to not make that shift, like my children
Yes.
have decided to
Yeah.
make that shift.
When you just stay there and say, I'm like this and I'm going to be like this, and mama,
Right.
it's your fault.
Correct.
Versus this happened.
And we know that that happens a lot in our families
Yeah.
because we'll make excuses for cousin so-and-so and aunties. You know, that's just how she is.
Right, right.
You know, that's just how he is.
Right.
Which then leaves them in that place
Mhm.
and also puts us in that place of not having to shift and not having to make a change, because now we've taken on that persona for ourselves.
Right.
They're that way. They can't change. Because this happened to me, I'm this way and I can't change. And I wholeheartedly reject that.
So if we are out there, if we find ourselves at any time saying, this is just who I am, what you're saying is, no, baby.
No, that's not
that
just
don't have
who
to be
you are.
just who you are.
Absolutely.
That's just a moment in time in your life
Absolutely.
where something transpired, but it doesn't define or
Absolutely.
have to define who you're going to be.
Absolutely. And if we look at that from a mental health standpoint, it's no different, or even a physical health standpoint. We don't say to people, you are cancer, you are bipolar disorder, you are diabetes. That is a condition that you are managing in your life.
Mm.
So it works the same way in that, oh, I am not an abuser.
Right, right.
As you know, as we talk about
right.
our
That's just
our
who
children.
he is.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, he's not an abuser. That's something that happened and that can be fixed.
Correct.
I like that. Okay, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
I think we need to, yes, we but when we come back, we're going to have more on this discussion. And I want to talk about our mental health and how we view money.
Okay.
And, this all ties right in.
Absolutely.
Our wealth, our abundance of it, or our lack of. A lot of it is embedded in our cultural history.
Absolutely.
And we're going to lean into that discussion when we come back from the break. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key with Miss Donicia Carlos, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, Mike. Hey, what are you saying here? Mm-hmm. Wait till the virtual world, aka Facebook metaverse, is in majority of the world's homes. We think people lost sense of reality now. It's about to get worse. Mike, generational trauma. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Generational trauma. Hey, thank you all for tuning in. If you're out there, put something in the chat and let us know that you're there. If you have a question for Donicia or myself, put it in the chat. And we are happy to answer that for you, either here or live on air. Mike, you are so crazy. Hey, Glenn, how are you, sir? Always good to see you. Oh, gosh. Woo!
Yes.
Can I say something? One thing that helped me with my dad was finding out about what made him.
What made him?
Right. Sometimes we forget that. Right? Because a person might, you kind of touched
like his circumstances.
Yeah. What made him? Because I didn't understand my dad for a minute. And even though he's a big influence in my life, I understand him. And but my mother said, listen, before you condemn him, find out what made him.
Ooh.
So it made it and it made a big difference because I did have to go back and look at what he had to deal with.
Right.
Now think about what you just said. And if the world looked at everyone just like that.
Right.
Before you condemn a man,
look
at what made him. That's like that saying, you never, something about walking a mile in a person's
in somebody else's shoes, right? And it removes the judgment from condemning that person.
Yeah.
When you go into it, and that is a challenge for us. We have gotten so used to being on guard and protecting ourselves because there's so much trauma.
No vulnerability. We are what is the word? Non-vulnerable. What's the word I'm trying to say? We do not allow ourselves as a culture.
Correct.
We
To
culturally
show
are not.
vulnerability.
Yeah. The
Right.
men and where does that come from? Again,
Right.
back in slavery, because you just
Yes.
had to suck it up
Yes.
when your heart was being ripped out of you. Your
Yes.
family,
Your
your
family
master
literally
walk in the door,
being
take
taken
your
away
daddy,
from you.
take your
Right.
mama, take your
Your
kids,
children. Exactly.
and you had to develop a very hard shell.
As a guy, you had to take that out of you too in the neighborhood you came up with.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
That's where that all comes from. If you have that hard core.
Yes.
So we can't,
Right.
Black women are hard against each other. We're viewed at, ABWS, angry
Right.
Black woman syndrome.
Exactly.
Why? Because people are coming at us in all kinds of ways, and we've got to protect ourselves on so many different levels historically.
Yes.
But we still carry it on. 5,
You know
4,
what? I'm here.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, y'all, we were getting into the deep, nice conversation during the break, and we're going to bring it back in, because what we were talking about, my engineer, Dosti, he just waved at y'all. He mentioned that he had to understand his father before he could understand what was going on with him, before he condemned him. And, he said he honored his dad and everything, but once he actually took time to peel back the layers to see what made the man, if we could just step back sometimes and try to understand, if we could look at people from a deeper level, then it would help us understand the behaviors better.
It absolutely would. And as we were talking, I mentioned that helps to remove the judgment. And I think about myself personally. I don't want to be judged.
Mm-hmm.
We have all had pasts, and some of it is not the prettiest.
Right.
We don't want folks holding that
I
against
don't think
us.
that there are very many people who have pretty past. We
Correct.
really tell the truth.
Correct. If
We've
we're being
all-
transparent
Right.
about it.
We've all done something that we are ashamed of. Everybody.
Absolutely. And so being able to look at folks from a non-judgmental standpoint and looking inward,
Mhm.
because that judgment is not just external.
Mhm.
It starts internally.
Yeah.
The judgment that you have for yourself, for things that you may not have accomplished, for where you may not be in your life right now, you then begin to project that onto others. So it may be parents, it may be siblings, it may even be your own children. For, we talk about in our community how we want the next generation to do better than we did.
Right.
But if we're still living in judgment for ourselves, are we really wanting that next generation to do better? Or are we projecting our own disappointment of ourselves onto them? Oh, they think they're better than everybody else. Oh, they're haughty, they're bougie, all the terms that we use. But we look at that comes from our generational trauma. It comes from being told by society, by white supremacy, that you are not better. You're never going to be better. So as you spoke about the genetics, that then seeps into our DNA. We then, as we create and procreate, we transfer that on to our children. That energy that we have, we transfer that on to people that we meet. And so that's why your self-care is about yourself. It's about you getting better, so that as you encounter people, as you come into contact, even with family members that you struggle with, or have maybe not had the best relationships with, it becomes about you being better and you getting better.
I love that, because you spoke in there. I could hear you saying that there's hope.
Yes.
That things don't have to stay the same. There's this stigma attached to the Black community. Everything bad happens within the Black community as far as European culture is concerned. And the reality is that is a tag or a label that was given to us
Absolutely.
and that we chose to accept and keep rolling with.
Yes.
But now that is starting to change quite a bit. And, it started to change a long time ago
Right.
with the first person running away from the slave
Right.
master, really, if we think about it.
Absolutely.
But then that narrative, seeing more Black people in positive positions in the workplace, on television, exposing, like you said, raising families different,
Yes.
taking the time to, as they say, break generational curses,
Yes.
identifying them and not looking back and placing blame, but placing facts.
Yes.
And
changing, because those two have to go hand in hand. Otherwise, you're stuck, you're stagnant, and other people may not be either in a position to, because they have fully taken on the idea that they will never change. But there's nothing that you can do about someone else not wanting to or not being able to make that change.
Yeah.
You have to take it upon yourself to make those changes. And that could look like creating boundaries for people who may trigger you in ways that bring up that old person,
Right.
That person that you've learned to be or that you grew up in a family to be.
Now, how would someone create these boundaries? Because we're talking about self-care. And I know personally that boundaries are important based on what you're talking about.
Yes.
How would one go about, first of all, identifying that they need to create a boundary?
So when you are people pleasing all the time, making sure that everyone else is okay, you find yourself drained, you find yourself exhausted, you find yourself maybe even isolating, because that's the only way you know how to get the rest that you need. No is a complete sentence in and of itself. No explanation needed. No qualifying or quantifying why you said no. If I say no, that has to be accepted. If it's not, that's on you, because I'm still saying no and not participating in whatever it may be.
So for the person who's overexpending themselves, learn to say no.
Yes.
Especially at times like this during the holidays when people are pulling on you. You've got family asking things of you. You've got people indirectly giving you their Christmas list, telling you what they want, you know, like, and you feeling pressured, like you got to do all. And you're saying, say no.
Say no. And even in things like getting together for the holidays can be very stressful for people's
especially
mental
around
health.
COVID.
Yes. So you incorporate that.
About that.
Yes. And you then take whatever familial situations pre-exist that haven't been dealt with. So you might be the single woman or man that comes to the holiday dinner and everybody wants to know, are you dating? When are you going to get married? How come you haven't snagged someone yet? Those are conversations that you don't have to have. And you can be very clear about that. That's not a discussion that I'm prepared to have today. Simple as that.
Okay.
And if people want to push it, that's not a discussion that I am prepared to have.
I like that.
With you, with anybody.
Yeah.
That's my decision. We might not see eye to eye on it. And this is not me saying that you have to qualify that. Your sentence of that's not a discussion that I'm prepared to have today, or I'm not prepared to have, that's your answer. That's your no, we're not talking about this.
I love that. I love that. And that's self-care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of times I think we think that self-care means, oh, I got to go get a mani, a pedi, I'm going to go to the spa, I get a haircut, I'm going to go sit by the water. Those are, yes, physical things that we can do,
Mm-hmm.
but self-care is about your mental health care and wellness as well, and being able to create those boundaries around conversations,
Mm-hmm.
around, oh, I'm only staying at the Christmas family event for 2 hours. I'm not going to be
2
here
hours.
for 4 hours or 6 hours,
30 minutes.
draining my, exactly. I'm not going
That's
to,
self-care. Yeah.
absolutely.
Preparing in advance for what you are willing to take on mentally, what you're
Absolutely.
prepared to take on mentally,
Absolutely.
being sure and firm about it, and being okay with the decision that you
Correct.
make.
And know that those making those decisions and taking those stands will be scary.
Mm-hmm.
They will have you feeling anxious, because if you've never done it, you then begin to think, well, what is my family going to think? Or what is this person going to think? How are they going to look at me? What are they going to feel about me?
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to work on caring about what you think, how it makes you feel,
Mm-hmm.
what the outcome is going to be for you.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care does not mean that you are being mean to friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's called self-care.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you,
Mm-hmm.
what you feel, and how you take care of
Right.
yourself.
And I love that you said that too, because then there's the part about what are you putting off? What vibes are you sending out? And I think we have to be careful, because sometimes I see people saying things in a negative way when they're
Mhm.
trying to talk about self-care, like what we not gonna do, kind of,
Correct.
and it's really not that. It is, and maybe we should have put this in the title, self-care in love.
Yes.
In love.
Yes.
Because you're not really practicing self-care if you're putting off a negative energy.
Right.
Because that's
Right.
just going to come back to haunt you. You're going to leave a lot of skeletons behind you. You're going to come out your self-care closet and ain't nobody going to want to
Correct.
deal with you.
And what does that do to you as you are practicing these things? So how does it affect your physical health?
Yeah.
There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about how things that come through us, our physical body reacts and responds to it.
Right.
So if you're anxious, a lot of folks get butterflies, that sixth sense that people talk about, intuition, all of those things, that is your body telling you whether this is good for you or not good for you, or that is just affecting you and impacting you.
So we're touching on all of it today. So I didn't mention that, I'm glad you're mentioning it, that your mental health care has an impact on your physical health.
Absolutely.
And so to that point, mental health care also has an impact on your financial health.
It absolutely does. So for folks who have, and I'm going to talk just a brief bit about formal diagnosis. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be bipolar disorder. Those things can manifest in the way you view money and the way you either take care of or don't take care of your money.
Talk about it.
I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder a while back. And for a long time, I didn't know what was going on with me. Why am I acting this way? And I have had a love-hate relationship with money for as long as I can remember. And so when I was feeling really low, we call it retail therapy, but is it really that? Is that spending excessively, spending rent money, spending bill money? That is about making you feel better.
Yeah.
It's about, as we discussed, filling that hole that is there. Something is missing. You're lacking something, needing something. And so when your mental health is off, lots of times, this is definitely not the case for everyone, but lots of times, excessive spending, the inability to save, the inability to invest for your future, to prepare yourself, is rooted in you not taking care of your mental health, because it is then replacing something.
You know, so many people
Yes.
just went through my mind when you said that. And my heart is so heavy right now, because as I look at their financial situations, and you know, and it's just so much that you said, you know, we say things like, oh, she just crazy, or you just, but there is a mental health condition that needs to be dealt with.
Yes.
That if it is dealt with,
right, then that's the hope that you can begin to get your finances back on track. You can begin to live a more prosperous life. And when I say prosperous, I'm not necessarily talking about the material things.
right.
I posted, and I think that's kind of what prompted also this conversation, about people are so busy trying to be successful materialistically, but we need to be trying to be successful with our mental health.
That's really good.
When we look at social media, we want everything that the superstars have. We want the big car, we want the fancy house, we want the clothing and the jewelry, we want, the maid service or whatever may go along with that. And I am in no way discouraging people
from desiring more.
Correct. Just don't let your desire for more take you out of your mental well-being. Because are you hustling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Are you eating and sleeping, thinking about how I have to secure the bag, how I have to get, what the next person has?
How would someone know if they have a void that they're trying to fill with a financial desire? How do I identify if I'm a workaholic, that, and I'm using the word workaholic, but if I'm working all of this time trying to secure the bag,
Right.
because I'm trying to fill a void, because I'm avoiding an issue that's causing my mental health to suffer.
So I think the first thing that people can do is look at how much time do you really spend with yourself in silence, candle burning, sage, incense,
prayer,
reading. How much time are you actually spending doing those things? Is that something that is on your calendar, or is it something that you are fitting in whenever you can? If you are making time for everything else in your life and not that time with yourself, you may want to take stock in that and say, 24 hours in a day. Okay, maybe I need 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And you start subtracting. If you have a traditional job, I'm 8 hours at the job. So you have 8 hours there and 8 hours sleeping. There's not a lot of time left. Where are you spending that time? And if you're not spending a substantial amount of time, and I won't give, you need to be spending 3 hours a day or what have you with you, but if you're paying attention to you and who you are, whether or not you're giving yourself that time of rest, or if you are giving that time away to the things that you are chasing.
So if I do discover that I'm not taking enough time out, and let's say I decide I want to take an hour in the morning to myself before I start my day, what are the types of things that I should consider doing that are going to help me deal with my mental health?
So I would recommend affirmations for people. There are lots of apps out there now. Keisha and I were talking about the Calm app, which is one.
Yeah, I highly recommend the Calm app, CALM, and it's an app. And when you download it, it's a free app, but they do have a subscription.
They have
part,
a premium service, yes.
But it has these soothing sounds of nature.
Yes.
But my favorite, and the one that we talked about, was the LeBron James. They
Absolutely.
have these different superstars who have, what do they call them? They're like segments.
Yes.
Where they're telling you how they become successful, not financially, but how they are consistent with their life and their activities and different things that make them who they are,
managing
and build
their
character.
life. Exactly. Exactly.
All of this is on that Calm app. So if that's something that you're looking for.
And there are more and more apps that are being put out that are specifically directed to African Americans. So the Liberate app is one, and also Exhale is an app for African American women. And they have a variety of guided meditations and things that you can read.
But what you're saying is that we've got to take the time out to feed our minds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because as we talked about earlier, social media has just taken over. So we spend a lot of time scrolling, Facebook, Instagram. Oh, I have to post this. I am guilty of it as well. So please believe I am not pointing the finger at anyone without understanding that those three fingers are pointing back at me.
Right.
Ask yourself questions. What do I want? Like, really, not just on a material level. What do I
level?
Yes. What do I want? What do I want for myself? Who do I want to be? Am I happy or pleased with who I am in this very moment? What things can I do to shift or add to my life that will add value? What things can I remove? We have to get to a place where we start to deconstruct and decolonize our Eurocentric thinking.
I like that. And in order to do something like that, you're absolutely right. You need to be in the stillness and the quietness of the day to just think about, what activities did you do yesterday? Or I would say, like, my children have over the years said things to me about how I've raised them that have caused me to take a second look. And if we're honest, if we'll allow ourselves to be honest, your children and those closest to you, your loved ones, are the first persons that you should be listening to when you hear something over and over again.
Absolutely.
Or your children tell you something that they've never said before and you're just blown away. Instead of being offended by it.
Right. And going on the defense.
Be vulnerable.
Take heed to that.
We were talking about us not being a vulnerable culture.
Right.
So if we practice vulnerability, if we're intentional about being vulnerable, and I'm looking up something because vulnerability has never been easy for me. And I actually did a little bit of research on how to be vulnerable. And that's just how serious I was about it, because I knew that I wanted certain things. I mean, you said, ask yourself, what do you want? Well, if you want love, you got to give love. Absolutely. In order for you to give love, you got to know and understand what love is.
Right.
Where is the source of love?
And to your point about looking up how to be vulnerable, there's nothing wrong with that. remove that judgment. If you don't know, if you haven't learned, if you weren't taught, don't beat yourself up about what didn't happen.
Right.
Be proactive in what you should be doing.
Okay. And I'm being told to take a break. And I'm listening to you. I found my little passage on vulnerability. We're going to take a break and we're going to go through all of the chat, the comments in the feed. I see you guys. I'm sorry. We were in that conversation. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to come back with some closing thoughts. We're going to tie it in with money, y'all. It don't take a lot to say this. It don't take much to get these points across, but these are conversations that we need to have. It all comes together. It's all tied together. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I'm Agent Key, and we'll be right back. Hey, you guys. Okay, let's see. Mike is in here tee-hee-hee and listening to the conversation. Miss Suzette, Glenn, hey. Facts. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go straight down, so this might be out of order as the conversation was happening. Hey, Jalil, how are you, sir? Donicia, he said, hey, good point, understanding before condemning. But in cases like R. Kelly, I still condemn him and all his elected actions.
Y'all need to leave R. Kelly alone, man.
Because we have to talk about where that came from.
That's
and
right.
that is a taboo subject in our community because we will come to the defense of women who have been sexually assaulted as children and grow up, but we never talk about sexual assault to men and then how they become abusers or
that's a great
perpetrate those things
Mike,
that have happened.
We have to bring that back on the air.
Absolutely.
Doggone it.
I do have one statement for you, though. Mm-hmm. I think, too, a lot of times we don't remove the stigma of what mental health is.
Yeah. That is absolutely true.
We always get to, it's got to be the doctor with the
needle and repeat the names of the books?
all the American and druid.
Yes. What's the name of the book that you mentioned?
Oh, The Body Keeps the Score.
Okay, I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay.
The Body Keeps the Score.
But you're right. And we haven't talked about stigma because that in itself is a lot of reasons why Black people don't view mental health and mental wellness as important. Because
we were experimenting on it with it too. So there's a lot of mistrust between Blacks and anything they have to do with anything that's not Black.
Well, the healthcare system is a lot like the prison industrial complex because we don't get the same treatments. We see that even in our celebrities, they go to the hospital. Serena Williams, prime example, has a condition and she's being dismissed, even though she knows exactly what's going on with herself. But she's being told, no, that can't be. You can't know more than I do. There's this ego that goes on in the health industry. And it's even worse in the mental health industry because historically, there was this doctor in 1848 that basically said that Black people can't be victims of mental illness because they don't own property. They're basically being taken care of as slaves. So there's no way that they can suffer from mental illness. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I can hear we're coming back from the break.
Okay.
Mike says you have to understand to be loved. Be the love to yourself first that you want.
Absolutely.
Reciprocated on the exterior.
Yes. We had a sermon like that.
Yeah.
2, 1, go.
Hey everyone, we're back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am on air in studio live with my special guest, Miss Donicia Carlos, mental health advocate. And she recommended a book earlier, and a couple of people asked online what the name of that book was, and it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And I put the link in the chat here. It's the full title, The Body Keeps the Score, Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma. And the author of that book, it looks like it says Bessel van der Kolk, MD,
yes.
Kolk. And so that is a book that she's recommending. During the break, someone mentioned R. Kelly. and we had a nice little robust conversation. I do want to throw the financial piece in here, but I do want Donicia to talk about what she just said about R. Kelly. Tell everybody.
Yeah, so we look at the crimes of R. Kelly and we stop at that. I want folks to understand that when you try to understand without judgment what has gone on with someone else, or crimes maybe in this case that they have committed, it started someplace else. And while we don't condone what has happened, we don't look enough at how Black men suffer from sexual abuse, and then they, at times, in turn, become what has actually happened to them. We will light a candle and lead the charge for women who are victimized from sexual abuse. And even recently in the news, there was a gentleman who has been exonerated, 16 years in prison, falsely charged with rape. And we don't talk about that. We don't have that discussion. And we need to be looking at the source. You don't have to agree like what may have happened. And none of us do, because it was horrific. But where did all of that begin?
Because it wasn't just him. His brother is in prison for the same thing.
Absolutely. And there are so many times that Black boys, because when we talk about sex in Black men, it's a rite of passage. If an older woman seduces, has a relationship, and I use that in quotes because it can't be a relationship if you're under 18, and it's definitely not consensual. When those things happen, we close the door. We don't want to talk about it. And then we want to vilify completely the person for the things that we haven't talked about that have happened to them.
And the benefit of having these conversations is to stop it from happening.
Correct.
The benefit is, again, shining the light on it, vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And one of our viewers, Mr. Mike Snell, he's been on the show before. I was talking about love, and if I'm wanting love, that I have to give it. And Mike made a comment I just wanted to share. He said, you have to understand how to be the love to yourself first that you want to be reciprocated on the exterior.
That is
and I love that
true.
Because in order for that to happen, there has to be, in order for us to understand why people do what they do, in order for us to be a certain way towards other people, we have to be willing to take a look at us and say, I might not, my recording of how I view the world may not be right.
Absolutely.
The way that my mind is set up, there could be some things that I've taken on that may not be right.
Correct.
Let me be vulnerable enough to hear what you have to say.
And the honesty part that you talked about, I believe when we were off air, is that we have to be honest with ourselves. Honesty is not brutal. It just is truth. I don't like that term, brutally honest, because that to me is an oxymoron. How can you be brutal to somebody?
Yeah. They're just setting the path to come in and dagger you with their words.
Correct.
Let me be brutally honest. In other words,
yes.
I'm about to tell you off.
I'm about to let you have it. Exactly. Yeah. And so we have to be able to be honest with ourselves. And that comes with us sitting with ourselves. No one else will know what your thoughts are, what you're feeling, what you may be writing down. Journaling is an excellent way also to, become one with yourself, to start to uncover and discover things. So.
I want to share this. I did find my little paragraph, and it's something that I put together. I was listening to Brene Brown. She often talks about vulnerability.
Yes.
And I put this together as I was dealing with and again, it came with me sitting down with myself, looking at what do you really want? And knowing that I have heard people in the past say things about me that I was in general harsh and insensitive. And so I'm dealing with, okay, that's a reality. That is my truth, as some people would say. But that's a truth that I'm not trying to walk in. Hello?
Right.
So I don't want to be seen as harsh and insensitive. So how do I change that?
Right.
Where in my life am I harsh and insensitive?
Right.
And so the first thing I did was pray about it. Went to God, went to the Word, and to see, well, what's the opposite of being harsh and insensitive?
Right.
Loving, kind, peaceful. Well, I'm not automatically those things. I'm just not built like that. And then when I say I'm not built like that, I have to be careful, because it doesn't mean I can't change.
Correct.
Because if my goal is to not be harsh and insensitive, anybody can change. You can change anything about yourself that you desire.
That you want to. Exactly.
You don't have to walk and live a life of the names that people call you if you don't want to be those things.
Correct.
So let me read this really quickly. Vulnerable people have the courage to be imperfect. That was big for me, because perfection, you just kind of want to be seen a certain way. God's like, girl, you ain't perfect. Your name is not Jesus. The compassion to be kind to themselves first and then to others. That struck me, because I am my own worst critic. And they have connection as a result of authenticity. They're willing to let go of who they think they should be for who they really are. Fully embrace vulnerability as being necessary. The willingness to do something first where there are no guarantees. For me, the way to live is to be controlling, but to be vulnerable and live without predictability is going to be very tough. And God has me at a place in my life right now, I have zero control. And it's so scary to not know what's going to happen.
Right.
I have a vulnerability issue, and it's the score of shame and fear and my struggle for worthiness. But it is also the birthplace of joy, of creativity, of belonging, and of love. Be vulnerable, practice vulnerability. So this is something that I tell myself. I go back to this because I'm trying to grow in this area.
Right.
And I don't condemn myself for realizing it.
Right.
And I embrace what the possibilities might be.
Right, because it becomes counterproductive to your growth by condemning yourself.
Right.
By, as you said, you're your own worst critic. A lot of us are. We keep ourselves on the hook so nobody else can. Nobody else can say something negative about me, because I've already got it covered. Yep, took care of that.
Y'all see? Okay. We're out of time.
Yes.
We didn't even get to the finance part, y'all.
Part two. And we talked a little bit about, spending and how your mind works. And
we're going to come back with a full-on financial piece about wealth. Part 2, you guys. Stay tuned. Thank you, Miss Donicia, for being on the show.
Me.
Thank you all for watching and listening and tuning in. Oh, by the way, the website for Anchor Financial Academy, we've renamed it Anchor Financial Academy. It is up, anchorfinancialacademy.org. Go there, sign up for updates. Registration will open January 1st. We've secured a nationally known speaker. You're going to be excited about this. We are doing what did we do the year before? We're helping you become credit worthy, helping you to live debt-free, helping you to prepare for home ownership, helping you to understand how to investing for beginners. And this year we're adding a new class, helping you understand cryptocurrency, because Black people right now in America are number one as far as cryptocurrency buyers. So we all need to know. Again, you're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key. And remember, if you are doing what you were created to do, I will see you at the top.
Woo!
With 60 seconds to spare.
Oh my God.
Actually, you did
excellent. Thank you so much.
Part 2.
you.
Get your calendar
Yes,
book out,
right
bro.
now.
Because
Right now.
we've got to do part 2 about the finances. How about, I'm going to text you a couple dates.
Okay.
Well, how about the 15th? Because I
The
want it to be
15th.
fresh on people's mind before
That
they go
is
and spend themselves
Their money
into a
tizzy
Yeah,
for Christmas.
yes.
We can do that.
Okay.
The
So I'm going to let
15th.
everybody know
Okay.
you'll be back on the 15th. She'll be back on the 15th, y'all. Okay, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Did I miss anything? Oh, shoot. Yes, please talk about it. Oh, shoot. I missed some more comments. Working on myself first changed my life. I had to learn to love myself before trying to love someone else. Yep. Mike Snell, I agree 100%. I love this show. Thank you, Teresa. Tia, that you are welcome. Jelena says, I think you're saying just want to thank you. You have helped me on my journey. Oh, you are so welcome. Yes. Thank you so much for your time, Miss Donicia.
Oh, you're welcome.
Love this. Anchor Financial Academy. Thank you, Tina. Yes. .org. Yes. Love you to life. Yes, Mike. Mwah. Yep. Okay, guys, we got to take off. I'll see you soon. See you next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye. Yes.
I think